I just love that man. Thank you, Chief McManus. Before I introduce the sheriff, I want to introduce United States Marshal for West Texas, a dear friend of mine by the name of Robert Almonte. Would you stand up, Robert? Give him a hand, please. We met when I was asked to do an opening prayer for a World Championship boxing match, and he deals with occult crimes and cartels and Santa Muerte and things of that sort, and he's a wealth of information. He teaches all over the world, and I've actually been with him on his events, and so we're partnering together. Next, I'd like to introduce a man. Actually, when I first met the sheriff, he was just Javier. Well, that's at least how he introduced himself to me at a small restaurant right before we were both scheduled to speak at an event at City Hall. For 23 years, he served our community as an SAPD officer. He was even on bike patrol. He worked his way through the ranks from narcotics, the Executive Protection Detail, and the Office of the Chief. He then became an internal affairs investigator, and in 2012, he served as the Director of Communications. His last assignment at the SAPD was Director of Department's Integrity Unit. On January 1st, 2017, he was sworn in as Bexar County Sheriff. He's been married to his wife, Sarah, for 17 years and is the proud father of 2 daughters. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you Javier, Sheriff Salazar.
Thank you all so much. My name is Sheriff Javier Salazar, or as I'm more commonly known, I thought you'd be taller. So I'm glad to be out here to talk to you all about this today. It's just something that you have to talk about. Very early on with us, with my agency, when I took over, I realized that we weren't doing enough to stay proactive and stay current. As criminals are evolving their craft, because that's what it is, as they're evolving their craft and coming up with new ways to kill us or separate us from our money or our loved ones, in law enforcement, we have to evolve to stay ahead of the game. And so very early on, we established an office within my agency called the Office of Community Readiness. It's run by Deputy Chief Harry Jimenez, who came from Homeland Security Investigations. He retired from Homeland Security. And now that's what he does, is he helps our community stay ready. It's not just a matter of preparing for home burglaries or car burglaries anymore. It's a matter of preparing for things like this, like active shooter incidents. And so that training is something that we offer to the community. We call it CRAZE training, Community Response to Active Shooter Events. I will give you the number at the end of my presentation. I will give you the number if you want the sheriff's office to come out and train your folks on how best to respond to something like this. It's not rocket science, but we're happy to come out, even if you live in a neighboring county. Now, speaking of that, about being proactive, interestingly enough, the Friday before this active shooter incident happened, we invited 15 area sheriffs to Mi Tierra restaurant downtown to get acquainted and to tell them some of the things that we have available to us here in Bexar County that we're able to help with. I know that some of the smaller agencies surrounding don't have necessarily the tools, the resources, the personnel, the training to handle situations. And so, as fortuitous as it may have been, the speech that I gave to these 15 sheriffs, Sheriff Tackett included, was, look, you and I don't need to be meeting for the first time in the middle of an active shooter event. We need to be meeting under calm situation like Mi Tierra that day. So little did he know, and he mentioned this to me on Sunday when I got out there, little did he know that 48 hours after we had that conversation for the first time, I would be standing in his county calling in the cavalry and getting our resources there. So what we were able to do was bring our mobile command post out there, and my command post actually served as the command post, the joint command post for that investigation for the first several days. And then of course we had our detectives, just as Bill McManus had his detectives out at the area hospitals here interviewing victims of the crime, the wounded, that thankfully survived the attack and needed to be questioned. We had our detectives doing it. So it was something we were proud to do, but it was something we were prepared to do. Thankfully, we were able to work toward that. Look, I don't have the answer as to what it is that, well, I do have the answer. Is this a gun issue? Is it a mental health issue? Is it a, whatever issue? Pick your cause that people want to blame this sort of thing on and assign it to this. I'll tell you what it is right now. Evil walks among us every day. The enemy makes a living trying to get into our lives and into our minds and into our everyday world. And if we're not doing everything in our power to fight the enemy, then what are we doing here? Sometimes, as you all know, as I'm preaching to the choir here, literally, many of you all know that the enemy sometimes comes to us dressed as everything that we ever wanted in life, as temptation, the most beautiful thing you'll ever see. Sometimes the enemy comes wielding a weapon, a gun, a truck full of fertilizer, a butcher knife, whatever it is. That enemy is seeking to make himself a part of our lives. And if we're not doing our best to stay prepared on a daily basis, then we're not doing everything that we possibly can. And so I'll give you what we teach, our basic bullet points that we teach in our CRAZE training. ADD. Avoid, deny, defend. Okay? Avoid. And let me just say, this ADD is not the answer to everything. Specific to your congregation, specific to your facilities, you need to have a plan. Whatever that plan is, have a plan. Come up with it. We'd be happy to come out and help you craft that plan, but you got to have a plan. Rule number 1. Rule number 2, everybody in the congregation needs to have that plan, needs to know what it is. And number 3, you need to rehearse that plan. As scary as it is, as scary as it may be to train your congregation, to train your little ones what to do in the event of an active shooter event, as scary as that is for them to have to go through that, it's something that we have to do. So make sure that you have those plans and everybody knows them. The A on avoid, deny, defend. Avoid. If possible, get away from that threat, as far away from that threat and as quickly as you possibly can. Know the exits and the entrances to your church. Know all of them. Because it does you no good to just plan on coming, I'm just going to run out that door if a gunman comes out that door, or comes in that door. Well, what if he comes in that door and we haven't planned on it? So you need to know where all the entrances and exits are to know how to avoid the threat. Get everybody out as quickly as possible. The D, deny. Once avoiding is no longer possible, if you're cornered in a back room, deny. The part that you saw in the active shooter video that Chief McManus showed, the deny that gunman access to your area. Shut off the lights, block the door, barricade the door, make it seem as if nobody is there. Deny him or her access to where you are, to deny them the ability to make you into a victim. Let's say at this point, avoiding and denying access has failed, and now it's time to defend. Whatever that may be, if it's the handgun on your hip, which is fine, make sure that you've practiced with it, make sure that it's part of your overall plan. If it's a fire extinguisher, if it's a pair of scissors, if it's a letter opener, if it's just your hands and feet, fight like your life depends on it. Fight like you're fighting against the devil himself. As I've mentioned, you are at that point. You are fighting against the devil himself. So make sure that you're making every second count, make every punch count, make every shot count, because you may not get a chance to give a second. As we also mentioned in the video, when those first responders come through the door, let's say that you have chosen to take the concealed handgun route, you've neutralized the threat, make sure that we're not the one holding the weapon when those first responders come through the door. Don't get that tunnel vision and be standing there with a gun in your hand. Make sure that we're reholstering, set it down at your feet and stand on it to make sure nobody can get to it. Put your fingers out and indicate to those responding officers or deputies that you're not a threat. Make sure that know that at some point they may get you down on the ground, they may handcuff you, and I'm sorry to say, sometimes our language gets a little colorful and we may get a little rough. Know that that's part of it and that's okay. Allow yourself to be handcuffed and we can figure it out later. Those handcuffs can come off also. But we need to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to keep ourselves and our congregation safe. So as I mentioned, there's really no rocket science to this. It's ADD, avoid, deny, defend. Okay? There's videos available online, but if you want Chief Harry Jimenez to come out and some of the deputies from the sheriff's office to come out and train your congregation in this, it's free training, It's the number to call is 335-6169. 335-6169, area code 210. As I mentioned, Chief Jimenez this is one of the first things that we established when I took office in January. So he had been already doing about 3 classes a week prior to this. Of course, the demand has gone up exponentially since then, and that's fine. We've got plenty of personnel to train it. We just need to get that information out to you guys and make sure that we're doing everything as your Bexar County Sheriff's Office to keep you all safe and secure. So I thank you all for coming out. The fact that you all are here is a good first step in the plan. Definitely take advantage of some of these tips that you see. Take advantage of all of the tips that you see. And like Chief McManus mentioned, number 11 is a good one to start things out with. Make sure that you're including all of it. But certainly anything that the Bexar County Sheriff's Office can do to be a part of that plan, you let us know. We're here to serve. Thank y'all.
Hey iChurch, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our social media. Hey iChurch, have a great day.